So where are things right now with Aaron Rodgers? I think the likelihood has been all along that it'd be the Steelers or the Giants. The Vikings did at least consider the possibility of looking at that. Now, as NFL Network reported this morning, the Vikings have sort of backed away a little bit after discussing it. That doesn't mean it's a hard no, but I think they want to see what they have with JJ McCarthy, and I think the important thing to remember here is the approach that the Vikings have taken over the course of the last 2 months when you look at where their offseason is and how JJ McCarthy's 2024 set them up for this. JJ McCarthy had a really strong start to training camp, and we've been through all of this before, to the point where they discussed what would it look like if we put him out there. Then he gets hurt. He goes through the first surgery, goes through a second surgery, which is more of a cleanup, lost a whole bunch of weight. Did wind up on the back half of the year traveling with the team. So he was on the headset during games. He was in quarterback meetings, but this is a 14-win team. This is a team that's stocked with veterans like Harrison Smith and Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Bernard and Byron Murphy and Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and on down the line. And I think part of the feeling here is you owe it to the guys that you already have, the guys who won 14 games a year ago, to give them the best possible situation at quarterback. So looking at where JJ McCarthy is and what he's gone through over the last year, I think the Vikings' philosophy going into the offseason was we need insurance against JJ McCarthy, regardless of how highly we might think of JJ McCarthy, of where we think 2025 might take him. We still need to get some insurance in the building. So they made an offer to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold got a multi-year offer in Seattle and a chance to be a long-term answer for Seattle at quarterback, which Minnesota could not compete with. They made an offer to Daniel Jones that was very similar to the one that he took in Indianapolis. Jones, of course, got $14 million on a one-year deal there. Jones made the decision, basically looking at it, that if he went to Indianapolis, he would have a better shot to seize and keep the starting job and perhaps be a long-term answer for the Colts. Didn't think that opportunity would be quite the same in Minnesota. So in both cases, the presence of J.J. McCarthy made it so for Jones and for Darnold, there were more attractive situations elsewhere just because of the opportunity involved. If you go get Aaron Rodgers, you're not presenting, you're changing the dynamic altogether. Whereas if you had brought back Darnold and he had a tough first month, you could go to McCarthy. Whereas if Jones comes in and competes and loses out to McCarthy, then you can just go with McCarthy. If you bring in Rodgers, the dynamic is completely different. You are handing the keys to Aaron Rodgers for 2025. That's it. There's no other way to do it, right? So at that point, you are consciously pressing pause on the J.J. McCarthy era, and you are saying we are going with Aaron Rodgers now. We are all in on Aaron Rodgers now. How is JJ McCarthy going to handle that? How is that going to affect your future with JJ McCarthy? All things that had to be considered. And I think as for right now, where they are right now, they want to get a look at JJ McCarthy, and they want to give JJ McCarthy a chance to be what they drafted him to be, which is the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. That wasn't going to happen if Rodgers wasn't there. So where does that leave Rodgers now? Leaves Rodgers in a spot where I think you've got two teams in the Steelers and the Giants that, again, are offering different things. I think the Giants situation is more analogous to what the Jets presented Rodgers 2 years ago, where the Giants have a promising young core of players, but they haven't won at a high level in forever. And so they're asking Rodgers to come in and be the guy who changes everything. The Jets asked Rodgers to be that guy for them. Injuries got in the way 2 years ago. I think overall organizational chaos got in the way last year. Can he be that guy for the Giants? They'd be asking him to be that guy in New York, the guy who could lift up a core that includes Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. Like, can he be the guy that lifts that group up and takes them to the next level? Pittsburgh would be asking for something different. Pittsburgh would be asking him to jump on a moving train. The Steelers have been a good team forever. They never had a losing season under Mike Tomlin, but they haven't been to the highest level. They haven't been to the mountaintop in quite some time. So, like, what you would be looking at in Pittsburgh is a bunch of guys who've won a lot and a bunch of guys who are closer to being Rodgers' contemporaries than the guys in New York. or then the guys in New York, yeah. And in Pittsburgh, you'd be looking at a guy in TJ Watt who's turning 31, Minka Fitzpatrick's turning 29. Cam Hayward is well into the back nine in his career. DK Metcalf coming over, he's a third contract guy. So you'd be looking at guys that would be operating with the same level of urgency that Rodgers is, because they don't know how much time they have left. So just looking at that, like Pittsburgh looks like the situation that is a little bit more of a different way of attacking, going after, and trying to get the most out of your last year than the Giants would be from the Jets. Right now, if I had to guess, I'd say Steelers. I'd say Giants. I would not rule out retirement, but I think the Steelers would be one, Giants would be two. Again, don't rule out retirement.